issues. This is what branches of the ANC are saying. There is no need why you must then hastily go to a national conference. But part of the lesson we learn from the branches is that conferences sometimes don't resolve problems. They sink the organization deeper. Because in an organization where we have not resolved issues of factions, groupings, and so on, even if you go to an early conference, you may emerge with a much more crisis than to resolve the problem. So we're here today to make sure that, frankly, we come with the solutions. Branches do suggest some mechanisms of how to deal with some of the issues that are facing the organization. We hope at the end of this meeting, we'll come with a better, strong African National Congress, given the challenges that we've faced.
There's also an understanding that the branches did not want to talk about whether President Jacob Zuma should step down or not, choosing rather to deal with the challenges.
I must say that the issue about the ability of the National Executive Committee at a national level to provide leadership has been raised by a number of regions. To what an extent I will provide leadership on a number of issues that are raised in the report. On Monday, we should be able to say on this specific issue raised by the branches, this is our response as the national leadership, because part of what we must do here is not to reject or to second guess what branches are saying, is to provide leadership, because part of the outcry was that we must provide leadership, even on issues sometimes that have got nothing to do with the ANC. For example, issues in also is. Our branches expect the ANC to have a direct interest, because it does damage the African National Congress at the end of the day. So they did raise issues around issues of leadership, collectively how we provide issues of leadership. That evaluation will also be taken care of in this meeting.
Okay, Eldon St. Pierre from SABC TV News. Is it safe to say then that there will not be an early elective conference? And is it safe to say that there won't be a consultative conference? So is that something that then the NEC still has to discuss?
The sense we get from the branches, and which is I think is the totality of the report from the branches now, is that our focus from this meeting must be to rebuild the confidence of our people to the African National Congress. The two issues that were in the domain, public domain, even before we visited branches, consultative conference and the early conference, they've been overwhelmingly rejected by structures of the organization. So the focus of this NEC, accepting the criticism from the branches, among others, is to rebuild the confidence of firstly the members of the ANC to the ANC, but also to reclaim and to reconnect with the lost ground in areas, because we must build a future to the African National Congress for generations to come, that there is no other hope except the African National Congress. And it's a preoccupation of this NEC that going forward, the time for mourning is over. We must now provide leadership and deal with issues that people are raising. The second phase after this meeting, having met with branches, we will now meet with sectors. We'll meet sectoral meetings, we'll meet with communities, faith-based organizations, NGOs, to get now directly from those NGOs exactly what are the issues that they would have wanted the ANC to address, which would have influenced a voter of the ANC not to vote the ANC in the last election.
Kunisa Hunter from the Sunday Times. I just want to find out with regards to, what you said was a lot, from the last conference, but moving forward, from the last NEC, but moving forward, will we see any direction in terms of what branches need to do, what structures of the ANC need to do towards next year's conference? Is this the NEC that's going to provide that kind of clarity as to where this NEC stands in that regard?
You will recall in the last NEC, one of the issues we included in our statement was the fact the issue that has to do with the transition. And we thought that issue needs to be managed politically, given the experience of Chama Pindus, for an example, where you had 42 candidates just for the president. And we don't anticipate that situation. And part of the issues that we already began to engage now is a possibility where you could have less contestation, because some of these contestations, without undermining internal democracy, they do bring about tensions in the African National Congress. That process is already underway, led by the officials. We mandated the officials as the NEC that they must go out and engage in a process that we want the National Conference 2017 to unite the ANC. We don't want a conference that further disintegrates the African National Congress. That process will also be further engaged in this meeting.
Just as a follow-up, the leaders of the ANC did not dictate who the next leaders of the ANC are going to be. It's going to be structures. So how do you sort of squash opinions or views or decisions by certain structures that X person ought to be the next president?
No, the national leadership can't anoint a leader. What we can do is to deepen internal democracy in the African National Congress. But I think what the membership of the organization appreciates is that the next conference of the ANC will not take place under normalcy politically. we've got to take into account the fact that we've got to build a united ANC towards 2019. We will not reclaim the lost ground if we are not a united organization. And there are certain things that we've got to do differently.
Well, sorry, the issue of the Peace Must Fall campaign, will that be...
It is in the National Working Committee report to this NEC, because it is an issue that this NEC must focus on, among other things.
And can you give us a sense of some of the mechanisms that were put forward by branches to the...
We would, at the end of this meeting, will give you what are the proposals from the branches and what are the solutions. This NEC will focus on the solutions raised by the branches, because some of the proposals, branches do come with solutions. And we'll see if it's feasible, for example, to implement politically some of the suggestions that come from branches.
Okay, since the last NEC meeting, what has the ANC done to address issues of factionalism?
The last NEC, among others, mandated the national officials, among others, to uproot factionalism even within the NEC. Because the view of branches was that some of the issues you see in branches, in regions, in provinces, people are influenced, among others, by national leadership. And we do take into account, we have to introspect ourselves first as a NEC, so that we influence the lower structures. So the officials, as part of the National Working Committee, will also present that report of the work they've done since the last NEC.
Will the issues at the SABC also be on the agenda?
Not just SABC. We mandated the officials to look at the issue of SOEs. You recall at that time, topical was an issue of ESCOM, topical was the issue of DENEL, topical was the issue of SABC. What we need to do, what has happened since? Because our appreciation was that those issues impact negatively on the ANC, because a voter, when they see instability at one SOE, they see an ANC that is unable to govern. Okay. Thank you, guys.